Welcome everyone to our second meeting of the day. We had a joint meeting with the hospital board earlier today, but this is our regular meeting of December 1st. First item on the regular agenda is again it's roll call, please.
Councilmember Sanders.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Jackson.
Here.
Councilmember Villegas Walker.
Here.
Councilmember Cardenas.
Present.
Mayor Silva.
Present. Mr. Cardenas, can you lead us in the pledge, please? And Ms. Sanders, can you lead us in the invocation?
Absolutely. You guys join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Heavenly Father, as we come this evening, we come with our heads bowed and our hearts humbled. As we enter into the seasons of goodwill toward all men, we're asking that you would provide us that kindness that should spread from each one of us and have it spread abroad, not only for the room that we're in, but throughout the entire community and then, Lord, through the state and the nation. We ask that you would help bring peace to the world. Give us a mind to be able to really look out for those who are in need and fulfill that need. Then, Lord, we ask that you would help us as we deliberate and that we make the decisions that are going to be so vital and so important to all of the community. This is our prayer, and we ask this in your Son's name. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Cardenas. Thank you, Ms. Sanders. Next item on the agenda is a report from our city attorney on closed session. Ms. Becker, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On a motion by Councilmember Sanders, second by Councilmember Cardenas, the City Council met in closed session at 11:32 a.m. and all council members were present. A report was given to council on the two anticipated litigation items listed on the agenda. One of the items was informational only with no action or direction to report. For the other item, there is no final action to report, but direction was given to staff. With regard to the pending litigation entitled McFadden versus Personnel Appeals Board, with the case information appearing on the agenda, a report was given to the council. There is action to report, which is that on a motion by Councilmember Villegas Walker, second by Councilmember Jackson, there will be an item coming out of closed session to appoint 4 members to the Personnel Appeals Board for the sole purpose of hearing the remand in the McFadden matter. The City Council considered the discipline, dismissal, and release of a public employee. The city attorney and the HR director both participated in the discussion. The city manager excused himself from the discussion at 12:35 p.m. There is no action coming from closed session on this issue. Closed session concluded at 1:15 p.m., but the council will be reconvening into closed session following open session. And that concludes my report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Becker. Next item, we have a couple of scheduled public comments. First, we're going to hear our monthly report. There they are, by our friends with the El Centro Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you, Mayor Silva and council members. Thank you for having me back this month. I'm here to give the Chamber of Commerce of El Centro's annual or monthly report. And so we want to welcome you all to our coming mixer, which will be on December 17th. It'll be on Main Street at the office of Karina Alvarez, CPA. We have our Christmas parade coming up this weekend, and the city has a float in the parade, and I think many of you are going to be in it. I think Mr. Jackson will be in it hopefully twice, I think. Once as this council member and as a business owner, so we'll love to see you there. We tried something new this year with over the Thanksgiving shopping kickoff for the vacation, and we launched a Shop Small Business Saturday campaign here in El Centro. We had 10 chamber members participate in that, and we hope we'll get up some steam for next year, and more people. There's no cost to the chamber members to participate, and kind of giving their local business a chance to compete against the advertising might of some of the big box stores. And we've gotten limited feedback on that. I've talked to one member that participated in it, and they said they did not get a whole lot of traction. I saw some photos posted by another that seemed like they did. And I was on my front yard looking up at my roof after having finished putting up the Christmas lights, and was glad it didn't fall off and break my neck. And a neighbor drove by and said they were heading downtown to shop because it was Small Business Saturday.
Oh,
so
great.
I thought we're getting a little bit of traction on that regard. So that's basically what we have going on. I think you'll be joining us, Alex, as a board member, coming in as Mayor Pro Tem. Is that correct? So we'll see you at our board meeting.
Well, we'll see. There's still a couple days.
Okay, well, you know,
It's still in the review.
nothing is sure.
See how he does
Background
tonight.
check.
You can still screw it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the 21st.
Yes, sir.
December 21st, okay? And anyway, thank you very much for having me.
And so they said the mixture of the 17th of
Yes.
December, that's a mixture, that's not to celebrate somebody's birthday, correct?
As far as I know, it's a mixer. Unless I'm missing something.
That's-
Mayor's birthday. Well, be sure to bring cake for everybody,
Okay.
okay?
That was the worst hint ever.
I'll make a note of that.
All right, thank
Okay.
you, David. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
You have no shame.
Okay, next item on the agenda is a presentation also by our friends with the Centro High School District, and we have a presentation by Mr. Preciado regarding an initiative to address chronic absenteeism. Arno.
Yes, one moment, please. Go. Good evening, Mayor Silva, City Council members, Mr. Duran, City Manager. Tonight, I come before you as Assistant Superintendent of Business and Support Services for the Central Union High School District. With me today is our Superintendent, Renato Montaño, from the Central Union High School District as well. And also Sergio, Sergio Rubio, who is our Vice Principal over at Southwest High School, in charge of discipline there. What we have here tonight is to bring you information regarding chronic student absence and the issues regarding chronic student absence. It's an issue that we have to deal with collectively as a community, as a school district, as business owners and members of our community. So I'd like to begin by providing you some information. So what we're going to talk about tonight is what is a chronic absence? Why are students chronically absent? And then what does research tell us regarding students' absence from school? In addition to that, we want to take a look at what the nation is doing and what we would like to do here locally in order to address this problem. What is a chronic absence? Well, a chronic absence is when a student misses more than 10% of their school year, meaning approximately 18 days of their school year from education or being taught in school. And that's for any reason, excused or unexcused. So the student absence of the classroom, I'm sorry, I'm having a little problem here. Student absent of the classroom is chronically absent if they are even excused. And so I wanted to bring that to your attention because the purpose here is to get the student into the classroom and provide them instruction. So as far as the grade level here for student attendance, 90% does not equal an A. We have various levels of attendance and absences that we need to take a look at. For the green, yes, we want to take a look at satisfactory attendance, and that is 5% or less of the school year that a student misses. That is satisfactory attendance. When we take a look at students who are above 5% and below 10%, those are warning signs. Those are issues that we need to address and have interventions for those students to make sure that they are in the classroom and to address the barriers that keep them from coming to the classroom. And of course, the red, chronic absence, equal to or greater than 10% absence. Those are students that we really need to take a look at and have strong interventions and programs in place so that we, again, get them into the classroom. Severely chronic absence are those that are greater than 20%. And believe it or not, we do have students who are absent 20% of the year, and we have to address that collectively. So noticing chronic absences is not an easy task. As you can see on this calendar, if a student misses a couple of days, a month, they can be chronic absence by the end of the year. Those are students that we have to target, those students that we have to look at that have 2 to 4 absences in the first month of school. Those are the ones we really need to take a look at, because history has shown us that those are the same students that are going to miss school month after month after month. And it doesn't take a lot to reach this chronic absent level. As you can see in this calendar, it's only a couple of times a month and you reach that threshold, unfortunately. So why are students chronically absent? Well, you have some myths. Absences are only a problem if they are unexcused. Well, again, the student is not in the classroom, so they're not getting instruction. Sporadic versus consecutive absences aren't a problem. I just showed you a calendar. They're sporadic, and they're missing 10% of instruction for their education a year. Attendance only matters in the older grades. Well, research has taught us that missing kindergartners also has an effect on that student's educational life. And so if they are chronic absentee student in kindergarten, then they will continue that same pattern throughout their educational life. So barriers, well, we have to take a look at the lack of access to healthcare for some of these students. And so because they're sick, and the two issues here locally are, of course, asthma, okay? And we have to address those because, again, it requires some health care. And other medical illnesses that students also have here locally that they, of course, don't have the health care provider for them to address. So it's other issues, but asthma is a big one. Poor transportation to school. At times, students don't have a ride to school or can't make it to school because their family car is someplace else. And it makes it very difficult for a student to come to school. We are looking at our transportation routes to make sure that we get the students and collect the students on a timely basis to make sure that they get to school as well. No safe path to schools. I know we're working with the city and also a collaboration with the county to look at safe routes to school to make sure that the students' access, especially if they're walking to school, is safe for the student to
Mr.
attend
Preciado, I think
school.
Ms. Walker has a question.
Yes,
Would you prefer questions as you go along or at the end?
however you would like.
Okay, so Mr. Preciado, could you explain to the council maybe, or briefly summarize transportation, bus transportation that is being provided by the Central Union High School District right now extends through what geographic area and how many students are provided transportation by the school district itself?
Well, the geographic area, again, it runs from all of our feeder patterns from Sealy on one end of the county to Meadows to the other, to Heber going south. And we also provide transportation to our folks that live on the north side of town as well. Approximately, we have 15 buses. Not all 15 buses travel because some of those are special ed buses. And in other words, there's, in terms of volume, there's small volume on those buses. But on average, we have 8 to 10 buses transporting students. I would say half of those students on each of those buses are being transported, or students are being transported on each of those buses. So I'm looking at possibly 200 to 300 students at a time in the morning and in the afternoon being transported.
So you have transportation both the Central, Southwest, and also over to your...
Desert Oasis High School.
Desert Oasis.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Other issues, aversion, any other questions? Any other aversions, child struggling academically, maybe they just don't like school and they have issues with coming to school. Lack of engaging instruction, something that we're looking at as well within our district. Poor school climate and ineffective school discipline, we're looking at that as well, and I'll share some of the information that we're doing here as part of our district to improve attendance regarding that. And parents had a negative school experience, and additionally, parents sometimes just don't feel that school is that important for their child, which we want to also dispel. What does research tell us? So research tells us that, and again, going to some of the statistics and research, poor children are 4 times more likely to be chronically absent in kindergarten than their highest income peers. Additionally, the negative impact of absences in literacy is 75% lower for low-income children whose families often lack resources to make up the time lost. Only 17% of low-income children in the United States read proficiently by 4th grade. Now, this is a slide here from Baltimore that shows, and they track this based on the research for 6th graders. And so based on 6th grade attendance, they track these students to find out if they truly indeed graduate from high school. So students that in 6th grade and move forward who were severely chronically absent had only a 56.3%, or had a 56.3% dropout rate.
Arnold, on the statistics that you just mentioned on the difficulties that poor children would have, are those national numbers or they're local numbers?
These are Baltimore, and then I'm going to show some other research that I've received also from University of Chicago. And that's something that we're also moving forward with the district to take a look at our own data. And I'm going to show you some data trends as well for Central.
But in terms of the poverty, right, specifically, the
and the poverty.
socioeconomic status is
Socioeconomic
a
status, that's a
determinant.
nationwide
Yeah.
statistic and research, yes.
You know, if I may, Mr.
Yes,
Preciado, so just,
yes.
and that was my question is, you know, I've spoken to John Ledoux, superintendent of El Centro Elementary, and he tells me that, you know, we have anywhere from 80 to 90% of children on reduced or free lunch. So, you know, the connection between the socioeconomic factor and absenteeism, is there any science behind or any studies that maybe conclude some sort of correlation that the socioeconomic conditions have an impact on absenteeism? Is there some studies behind that?
Yeah, yes, actually, what I just previously read were from studies. We have Romeo and Lee from 2007. It was a READY study in 2010, and Annie E. Casey Foundation in 2010 as well, that I just talked about, where students who are in poverty are the most, have the most risk of being chronically absent.
So, you know, I guess at some point, we're going to look at this, and I'm going to take Councilmember Walker's word here, is looking at it holistically and saying, what can we do to reduce this under these types of conditions?
Correct, correct. And we need to look at the barriers as to why our students aren't coming to school. Just to give you a little more information on percentages, the Central Union High School District percentage for unduplicated pupils, and the majority of that is made up of the free and reduced that you just talked about, is 76%. In El Centro Elementary, I believe it's 84%. Heber is 91%. And it'd be the same thing with Sealy and Meadows. So just based on that, we do have a high population of students who are on free and reduced or low socioeconomic scale for our students locally. So something that we need to address and find out what the barriers are for our students. Thank you. Any other questions?
Mr. Mayor, I'll just reserve I have several, but I'll ask them as you complete your presentation, Mr. Preciado.
Thank you, Mrs. Sanders. Next slide, I just wanted to show you here, again, from the University of Chicago, talking about Chicago Public Schools, where graduation is directly correlated to attendance. This is the 9th grade cohort that they did a study on. And for ninth grade cohort, those who were within 4 absences had an 87% graduation rate. I'd like to move over to where it says chronic absence, and those who were chronically absent 10 to 14 days per this semester only had a graduation rate of 41%. So given that, 60% of the students who had that level of absence did not graduate. And you can see how it affects the rest of the spectrum there. With the more absences they have, the greater the risk of not graduating and dropping out. So what are we doing nationally? Well, President Obama has launched an initiative called Every Student, Every Day. He is trying to address the chronic absenteeism in the nation. There's anywhere between 5 and 7.5 million children who are chronically absent yearly. And he's trying to address that and bringing awareness to the nation regarding that. So we are also looking at that as well, as in terms of attendance tools that we can use here locally. So let us look at Central Union High School District for just a second. This is a chart that shows Central Union High School chronically absent students. And again, notice how I'm looking at chronically absent students as opposed to attendance rates. If we could fix the attendance problem here with chronically absent students, obviously that's going to help our attendance rate. But we need to have the students in the classroom so that they can receive their instruction. So when we take a look at 14-15, on average, of course, going over the prior years as well, we're anywhere between 14.5% and 15% of our student population who are chronically absent. That's a big group. That is a big group.
Mr. Preciado?
Yes, ma'am.
What's the definition then of an absence? Is that a full day? Is it missing a period? Is it missing a couple of classes? How are we defining absence for
Okay,
period of this?
absence is missing from school, so it's either excused or unexcused.
But does it have to be for
Is the absence
the-
here for chronically absent?
for the full
If
day?
we're talking about truancy, truancy is a little different, where truancy is they're missing part of the day. That is a truant, or late to their class by 30 minutes or more, that is a truancy. But if they miss 3 days, 3 separate days of 30 minutes or more, that is an absent. So if they're truant means that they're late by 30 minutes or more.
So how do we track kids who are involved in after-school activities that may take them out of the valley for, successive number of days?
Are you talking about athletics or sports? or-
Athletics, mock
Those
trials?
aren't counted as absences. Those are present. That's a school function.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? So we know we have a problem and we have an issue, and we definitely want to improve upon our percentages here that I presented regarding Central Union High School District. The next slide is to show you.
Arnold,
that-
can
Yeah,
you go
yes.
back a slide?
Yes.
Yeah, these look like very alarming numbers, given what you told us earlier about the degree of success based on your attendance. Do you have a sense how Central Union High School's numbers compare to, say, Brawley's or Hopefields or other communities?
In terms of graduation rates?
In terms of the percent of satisfactory attendance, groups, is this a countywide problem that you see, or?
I think it's a countywide problem or issue. One of the things I wanted to mention that we all, as school districts here locally, are addressing absenteeism or attendance is in our local control accountability plan. Every district has attendance as one of their major priorities in addressing student attendance and getting them into the classroom. Now, in terms of percentages between Central Union High School and Brawley High or Calexico High and everything, I don't have those percentages in front of me, and I'm sorry about that.
But you would expect them to be similar to Central's?
I would expect them to be similar.
Well, I attend Juvenile Justice Commission meetings, and someone from ICOE was present and provided statistics that showed that Central Union High School's rates were far and away higher than any other reporting school district. And I thought that perhaps it was because of the reporting criteria, because it had Central almost, I'm not exaggerating, I mean like 3 times higher than the next highest district, so that we had to think that perhaps it was a reporting mechanism or something.
And we are addressing that within our group as well. Yeah.
Okay,
it's
was it a reporting issue?
A combination of that. Definitely, I know some districts are more lenient on the way they excuse or unexcuse those absences. We went through some training through the state, we call it basically a SARB training. It's an attendance review board, and it really opened our eyes, and we are definitely correcting a lot of that. So we will see those attendance rates increase already just based on the way we tag students.
So you did see the same report that I was referring to,
Absolutely.
where
Yeah.
Central was just like,
3% or
That-
yeah,
something.
that
something
was-
crazy.
That was a
Whereas the next district, which I think it was Calexico, was at 30%.
35 to 6.
When I saw that, I was, wow.
That was a 13-14 report from the California Department of Education on truancy, and Central
Okay.
was at 77%.
And if I may add also that we make that inference as well because there is no correlation with our graduation rates. when we put all of our graduation rates in line and compare them with other districts, we're about the median. So if that were the case, then our truancy rates would also, or chronic absences would also be at the median. So there was a major discrepancy there
Right.
that forced us to closely analyze that again. And we did find that there were some discrepancies.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I said I would wait till Mr. Preciado has completed his presentation, but the comments that coming from the dais as well as from the floor leads me to ask this question, if I may, Mr. Mayor. While we're talking about truancy and absence, I don't see anything that's talking about intervention. I see you have here poor school climate and ineffective school discipline. That brings a big question mark to me. But the real question is, for this portion of my question, for this portion of my Q&A anyway, what do you call average daily attendance? Are you targeting that for the money that comes in from the state? Is that how you label the absence versus truancy?
We're looking at it from the standpoint here of absences, not of attendance percentages or a positive attendance outcome. We're looking at chronic absenteeism. We're looking at it from the standpoint that the student isn't in school, and we want to find out why.
Okay, and then if you're doing that, and I heard the gentleman say you look, thank you, talking about SARBing. So are we SARBing these students?
Yes, sir.
And if we're doing that, then what happens to the student? Does he or she just fall off the radar? I mean, what happened to the student?
If we go through the SARB process, which I've only SARB one from Southwest, that student is now enrolled at Valley Community.
Okay, so what you're providing us then is three, what do we have, four schools? Central, Southwest, Desert Oasis, and so of those four, these are the numbers that are representing across the board from those four schools that you would
No,
classify
this is
in
only
the
Central
district?
Union High School District.
This is all, well, okay. Central Union High School District, does it not include those four schools?
It includes Central, Union High School, Southwest High School, and Desert Oasis High School.
It doesn't include the community school?
And
Oh, the
Phoenix,
community school is counting.
Phoenix Rising, and Phoenix
I'm so-
Rising, and Phoenix Rising,
Okay, so you do have four.
and Phoenix Rising. Yeah, Phoenix Rising
Okay.
is,
So that's the point I was making. There are four schools, or four, I want to call them schools or institutions. And so these numbers are compiled from those four. Okay, then I have the rest of the questions will come later. Thank you.
you're welcome. Any other questions on this slide? Next slide will show you that, and one would think that unexcused absences would be the issue here that we're talking about. Again, chronic absences, both unexcused and excused absences of 10% or more. And looking at this pie, you can see that there is basically a 60-40 split, where 60% of our absences this year, and this is taken through the middle of November, are excused absences. The other 40% is basically the unexcused absences. So again, it's not just,
What deems something excused versus unexcused, Arnold?
well, you have a medical appointment, death in the family, illness as well, of course, yeah.
And anything other than that, so what's an unexcused absence?
I overslept. I missed my ride. I don't have a babysitter.
Okay.
So what is Central Union High School District doing in regards to these, this issue? Well, we're improving attendance by, again, focusing our efforts through the Local Control Accountability Plan and putting money behind it to address absenteeism, to address the attendance issue. In addition to that, we are currently going through a revision of our board policies and updating our board policies to meet the current need, which is chronic absence and truancies. And we're updating our board policy as we speak. We have established our DATE and SATE, that's the District Attendance and Improvement Team, and our School Attendance Improvement Team, to look at the data, to look at our students, and to address and provide interventions, to break down the barriers as to why the students aren't coming to school. In addition to that, we are moving forward as we come before you tonight to begin and launch an attendance campaign to look at chronic absenteeism as a campaign here locally, as a community to address these issues. So how can we work together to address these issues? Well, we make attendance a community priority. We reward good and improved attendance by leveraging after-school programs, and that could be through city rec programs, and also bringing this issue up to the Chamber of Commerce attention as well, and our local businesses, because that does affect our local businesses in terms of their workforce. Identify and address barriers to school attendance, advocate for strong policies and public investment. Launch this public awareness campaign, I've already talked about that, and engage the whole community. And that's what we're doing as well. I had a meeting with the El Centro Elementary School District yesterday, and we are partnering, as well as I'm going to address our other feeder districts as well to see if they would like to, and I don't see why not, to come on board as, and collectively as an educational institution, as one entity in our county to say we are going to address this problem together. So we're moving forward in that way. So why does it matter? Well, again, collectively we must prepare students for success in their job and their life, and knowing that a better education for our students will provide us with an excellent job force, help us with a stronger economy, and of course make it a safer community.
I don't know, tell me a little more on what you envision on item number 2, rewarding and improving attendance by leveraging after-school programs. Tell me more about what you envision that to be.
Well, some of the discussions, and I've read about as well in other cities, is that they're tackling, again, the city and the school district are tackling absenteeism by making it a requirement in their after-school programs that they attend school. And if a student does not attend school and there are issues with that, then the student doesn't participate in the after-school program. So it's leveraging those types of programs so that if the student wishes to attend the after-school program, they must attend school.
Do you have a sense whether that's done through self-declaration, or is there some direct communication between the schools and the after-school program so that they will get a list of students that may have been absent that day? How does that work? What are the mechanics?
Most definitely, yeah, no, there's, we can provide a list of students if you have those from the recreation department, and we can take a look at how we can work collectively and communicate how well that student is doing in school in terms of attendance.
Okay.
Anytime we talk about an educational activity, I think parents have to be front and center. And I think that one of the things that we really need to be focused on, this is a parent responsibility to ensure that their student is at school, right? And I think first and foremost, we really have to start talking in terms of accountability, not only personal accountability from the student, but it's a parent's obligation. I mean, they have a legal obligation to make sure that that child is in school. And so I think that we really should, when we start talking about this campaign, that we don't let parents off the hook and let them know that it's okay for their students not to be there. On an earlier slide, there was a phrase used, absences due to suspension. I think more and more schools are adopting a philosophy that suspending students really does more harm than good. And isn't there an alternative way to impose discipline without kicking the kid out of class, which is exactly where they need to be there, or where they need to be? So is the school district kind of changing that a little bit, the approach to discipline?
We have our in-school, yeah.
The progressive approach to discipline, which we definitely take, depends on the severity. Obviously, a fight, drugs, that kind of deal will lead to an immediate suspension. But it can be as simple as a lunch detention, a period detention, a half-day in-house detention. So there's plenty of opportunity, and once the first discipline measure is taken, phone call goes home. Whether it's a charting issue, whether it's whatever the case may be, we communicate with the parents, help us out. This is what's going on campus. How can you help us at home to make sure that this behavior doesn't continue?
And what's the linkage with the feeder school districts? Because parents cannot wake up when their child is 13 years old and decide to start imposing discipline. So at what point are we saying, at kindergarten, we need to make sure, you parents need to make sure your child is there, blah, 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 blah. You can't just suddenly turn it on when the kid hits high school. So is there a
Correct.
good linkage between our feeder districts and El Centro?
And that's what we're beginning with with this campaign. As I mentioned, I met with this El Centro Elementary School District yesterday to discuss just that. I mean, because their students will be our students in the future. Same thing with Meadows and Sealy and Heber. And so, and McCabe. And so collectively, if we can address this early on in the student's life, that will make them a much better student when they get to the high school level. In addition to that, we're also going to be sharing some information on those 8th graders who are coming to the high school who are chronically absent and addressing them immediately when they come into the 9th grade in a form of a program or an academy that we have been having a discussion about as part of their orientation, and say, basically, listen, student, this is your history here in the past. It's got to change. It has to change. And so we want to address that specifically and early on.
High school has changed so much from when I was there, from even when my boys were there. But what does peer pressure do any longer? I mean, peer pressure when I was in school was a really big thing. Now it's like it's almost gone the other direction, that it's not cool to do well in school. It's not cool to excel at certain things. So is there a role for peer pressure, you know, a buddy system? Like, I'm going to make sure you're in school, you're going to make sure I'm
A
in
mentor.
school. Do we have that going on?
We're looking at all of that, because we are looking at, go ahead,
It's
Sergio.
part of our link crew, where we get juniors and seniors and we pair
Right.
them up with a freshman. We assign them 2 to 3 students. That's exactly a conversation that we recently had, that you text, you wake that buddy up to make sure that you do your part to make sure that they get.
Okay. So this will be my last question. How many parents do we have that are just out there that just don't care?
I don't have that number, but I can bet it's up there. I don't have that.
We need to get those kids linked with adult mentors that drive this message home.
And I just want to make an observation, Arnold, on going back to your recommendation on strategy number 2, is that you get together with Mr. Duran and Ms. Piedra and kind of think about what possibilities there may be, because I think, you know, the numbers that you're giving us are pretty alarming for our future. So I think that from our perspective, if there's a way for us to collaborate and help our children, help our community, help our schools, I think that's something that we should definitely work together on. So I encourage you to meet with Mr. Duran and Ms. Piedra and see what strategies can come up out of that, out of working together.
Thank you. In addition to the information I provided you from the slide, I provided a couple of other pages as well to the City Council. One of them is why attendance matters, and it's real simple, easy reading. And I got this from Attendance Works off the net, free of charge. And it does specify why attendance really does matter for our community. In addition to that, I've provided a worksheet here. It says 10 steps communities can take to reduce chronic absences. So we want to take a look at that and see what we can put in place in order to address that. Going back to a question, Mr. Mayor, that you had asked about how do we recognize good and improved attendance, one of the things that, again, part of our district attendance and improvement team discussions is to maybe we have our own letter for attendance or perfect attendance or great attendance or good attendance. Although they don't want to state that it's for attendance, maybe it's a different type of letter that we provide, and it'd mean so much. And talking about the peer support, that might be something that students would want to have on their jacket. So those are some of the ideas we're looking at from a positive.
Yeah, rewards versus punishment. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, before Mr. Preciado take his seat, I do still want to ask that question.
Oh,
and
yes, ma'am.
I'll restate it. It's on page 6, over in the 3rd column, your version, 3rd point down. poor school climate, and ineffective school discipline. So what does that mean?
Well, in the general sense or term, that students don't want to come to school because of the school climate. Maybe there isn't an importance for them to be there, and maybe the student doesn't feel important or doesn't feel valued to be in school. And so that's where you get the school climate. And something that we've been working on, and it's also something based on our local control accountability plan, is
Well,
to
the-
improve our school climate, so the students want to come to school.
Okay, and I was looking at ineffective school discipline. That wouldn't have anything to do with potential bullying of the young people while they're on campus, would it?
Well, ineffective school discipline means not keeping a track or looking at the data. That's one way of looking at that as well. That would identify the students that we need to provide interventions for. So if we're ineffective in terms of our discipline and getting the student in the classroom, that's could be an issue.
That's what you
So
mean there.
we're doing everything possible. As I've already mentioned, we set up multiple teams, and we're bringing awareness to a different level, a much heightened level in terms of our community. Our principals are on board, our vice principals are on board, our superintendent, and our board is on board because they did, at our November board meeting, pass a proclamation, a resolution stating that we're going to tackle chronic absenteeism as a school district.
So what's the goal? I mean, this is beautiful because you have all the numbers, you have all the statistics, so what's the goal?
Well, the goal is, and I've said it to the board, from a perspective of an attendance, is to increase our attendance rate from 94.7 to 96. How do we do that? We get them in school. And it's more so from the perspective of an instruction and a program as opposed to the financial aspect of it.
Mr. Jackson?
Yeah, Arnold, at what point do we, and I don't know if this is a viable option, but is there a point where there needs to be an intervention from a law enforcement standpoint, whether it be parents that are neglecting their children and not making sure they're getting to school, or it's the kids that are chronically absent because they're involved with illegal activities or such? At what point does the school district step in and engage local law enforcement to help with that?
Those are the conversations we want to have with probation and with the district attorney's office. As Councilperson Walker just mentioned, also, it is the law. It's compulsory attendance law. It's a statutory law. Students are supposed to be in school. Obviously, we don't have them in school, but it's something that we need to address collectively, and those will be discussions that we need to have with the district attorney's office. And how do we, again, from the punitive side, get the parents to comply?
So at this point, would it be fair to say that we don't have that cooperation right now from either the DA's office or the probation to enforce that specific law that's on the books?
Well, we're going to bring this awareness, like I mentioned, to a much higher level, and we want to get everyone to understand the problem that we have here in the county. It's not just our school district, it's the county. And so if we can get everyone on board, especially law enforcement, the district attorney's office, it could be housing department as well, our Chamber of Commerce, our after-school rec programs from the city as well. I mean, it's going to be a collective effort to make sure that we keep an eye on students' attendance.
Arnold, do you see this public awareness campaign that you mentioned on item number 5 being done independently by each school district, or is it a way that we can collaborate valley-wide, county-wide, with a unified message that also gives you some efficiencies and cost-wise?
There's a couple of thoughts on that. As I've already mentioned, I met with El Centro Elementary School District. My intention is to meet with all the other feeder districts and that we all collaboratively get on board together, not separately. One of my ideas is to have a discussion with Spectrum so that we can put forth a media announcement and work through the media, newspapers, television, billboards, making sure that attendance is on everybody's radar, and collectively state Central Union High School District with the El Central Elementary and Meadows and everybody else, or countywide, is on board here, that we want every student in school every day. In addition to that, another food for thought here that, again, I'm thinking out more than I should be here tonight, but we're a small county, and we have a very good group of educational leaders here in the county that meet once a month as superintendents, and the superintendent meeting. One of the ideas or thoughts is maybe we have a collective department or organization, and it could probably be, and again, I'm not speaking for Dr. Fennell, but maybe something at Imperial County Office of Education where we address attendance collectively. Attendance is on every school district's local control accountability plan, and that's what drives the districts now from here on out. And so if we can address it collectively, I think we'll be much farther ahead down the road.
Any additional questions?
I have one question to follow up, kind of where Mr. Jackson was going, but it's going to require maybe our police chief to come forward. So Sedalia, if you have a question in the interim, but I'm wondering, do our officers stop young people if we see them during school hours? Did you have a question for Arnold?
I have a comment more than a question. No, come right ahead.
Go ahead, Chief.
Yeah, good evening. Yeah, we have school resource officers assigned to the high schools, and they do a very good job of notifying the patrol officers when the district has half days. I believe every other Wednesday. They'll let the officers know ahead of time. Today is a half day, so the officers working that day know that on that day they may see an influx of kids. If it isn't, and they can check with the officers, is today a half day, or is there any reason why kids are out? If they say no, then yeah, they'll make contact with them, find out where they're at, and then the first resources we call our school resource officers, or they have the attendance officers that'll come in and turn them over to them to have the school take care of it.
Well, we have both law enforcement officers from our departments, right? And probation? Are there probation officers on the high school campuses any longer?
No.
Community school.
Thank you.
Ms. Sanders?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wish to, this is a huge societal issue, but I want to caution us as we think about non-responsive parents. In an economy like the one we have here, many of our parents are working. Many of them work in the fields. They get up early in the morning, they stay late and come in late in the evening. I would suggest that many of them leave home thinking that their young person will in fact go to school, only to find out after they come home that they haven't been in school all day. Even those who may not be working will prepare their young person to leave the house in a timely fashion, to get to school in a timely manner, and find that they have left home, went one block down the street, and decided to hang out with somebody else. Parents, I know, are a vital key to the success of any students, are a vital key to the student's success. But we also have parents with a lot of challenges, as well as our students. I just wanted to echo that. As a person who many of you know, have been on the school board, along with some of the rest of us here, recognize that when we're starving a student, that's a heart-wrenching experience. How do you go about making sure that the student's behavior and the parent's appearance of non-responsiveness coincide with what's best for that student? I sat on a SARB for a kindergartner, and I thought, what in the world could a kindergartner have done that would require them being SARBed? And on this occasion, the kindergartner was 5, at home taking care of a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old sibling. And it's hard. So as we look at this, Ms. Walker and I both work with the juvenile justice system. And how we frame this, I think, is going to be vitally important. as we engage the support from the parents. And I say parent, and I say that very liberally, because parents are legal guardians, may not be one and the same. And we have a lot of our students that are being parented by legal guardians. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
That's
Sanders.
my last comment, Mr.
Mr. Cardenas?
Yeah, just a real quick, Mayor, I do want to, I do believe that, this team here deserves some recognition. I'm hoping that this is the first of many meetings of you guys coming before the council and sharing some of these trends and some of these initiatives and campaign strategies that you're developing. You know, the nexus is clear. You know, if we're able to promote the perfect attendance, improve the graduation rates, we're going to get a stronger economy, better education, and safer communities. So I'm hopeful that us as a council and staff are taking a very active role in this process and building those collaboratives. I do want to highlight your point number 2 on the reward good and improved attendance. I currently sit on the school site council for Valley Academy. And one of the things that they started doing is recognizing perfect attendance. So you have a student that was SARBed for truancy at mainstream education, goes to Valley Academy, and then gets recognized for perfect attendance. And so there's different dynamics behind that. And when you recognize those types of behaviors, especially among their parents, and you give them certificates and they participate in graduation ceremonies at Valley Academy, that good behavior, that reward for that good behavior actually improves the educational outcomes. So again, I do appreciate you coming in here, and I'm actually very encouraged that with our mayor's suggestion that we do reach out to our city manager and Ms. Piedra and start building those synergies, because it does have an impact in our community. Because I'm almost certain the folks that are not graduating from high school are probably staying in our community. And so it's better to be on the front end of this than on the tail end. And so again, I am encouraged about those recommendations, but I hope you come back and share with us at least quarterly, you know, kind of what's going on.
Good, well said, Mr. Cardenas. Any additional questions, comments? I want to thank the council. We spent quite a bit of time on this matter, but it's of critical importance that we find mechanisms and develop the partnerships to improve the attendance of our children and our young people in school. Speaking of recognition, Mr. Cardenas, I do have a proclamation for Centro High School District on behalf of the council, and I'd like to read it and then maybe present this to Mr. Montaño, Mr. Rubio, and Mr. And Arnold Preciado. It says, whereas good attendance is essential to student achievement and graduation, and we are committed to dedicating our resources to reducing chronic absenteeism rates with a focus starting as early as kindergarten. And whereas improving attendance and reducing chronic absence takes commitment, collaboration, and tailored approaches to particular challenges and strengths in each community. And whereas schools and community partners can reach out more frequently to absent students to determine why they are missing school and what would help them to attend more regularly. And whereas chronic absence can be significantly reduced when school, parents, and communities work together to monitor and promote good attendance and address hurdles that keep children from getting to school. Now, therefore, I, Efrain Silva, Mayor of the City of El Centro, State of California, do hereby proclaim December 1, 2015 as Addressing Chronic Absenteeism Day in the City of El Centro. And this is my last proclamation and my tenure as the mayor. So I'm very, very happy that it's with you guys. So, good job. So let's, you want me to picture this?
My goodness, he wants it. I'm gonna take it.
I'll Google it.
Number 9, I think it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alex already asked for that.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Other than that, that's it. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Council. Let's go ahead and go on to our consent agenda. Consent agenda items are approved by one motion. Council members or members of the public may pull consent items to be considered separately at a time determined by the mayor. And I do have a request from Councilmember Cardenas to pull item number 9. Any additional items to be pulled from the council? From the public? Seeing none, I'm looking for a motion to approve consent agenda items 3 through 8 and 10 and 11, please. I have a motion by Sanders and a second by Walker. Please ballot.
Oh, that's right.
Getting rid of all of our Crown Vics.
Item passes 5-0. Thank you for that. Let's go ahead, Ms. Caldwell, could we do item number 9 right now? Yes. Okay, let's go ahead and consider item number 9, resolution of the City Council of the City of El Centro rejecting all bids and authorizing the re-advertisement of bids for the 2015 CDBG sidewalk improvement projects. Mr. Cardenas, you have a question?
Yes, and first of all, I wanted to apologize to council. I should have told you guys in advance, and Mr. Hagan too, thank you, but I do apologize. I should have called. And I just wanted a little bit more context behind the actual rejection of the bids. And I know that from what I read in the background, that Pyramid Construction was ultimately awarded, but I'm just curious to, if there was any concerns or grievances on the part of Holt Group and not being awarded this contract. Did they communicate back any concerns about not being awarded originally?
Holt's the
I'm sorry.
engineer. Holt is the engineer.
I'm sorry.
Well, it was Pyramid Construction, and they're certainly rebid it, I'm sure.
Okay, so at this point, we're gonna go ahead and, the action is to reject the bids and then
We're going to have a do-over.
do over. And
Right.
And the reason behind that was because there was a missing
Missing paperwork that needed to be
Paperwork.
submitted in the bid package.
in the bid package, okay. You know, I apologize, I did misread this, but, and then just in terms of, the timeline then behind it, I know it says originally, I guess the process started back in November 4th, and then now we're kind of rejecting the bids, and what does that ultimately do to our project there?
Well, we'll start construction March 1st, and it should end around the end of October.
Okay.
Oh, Can you share with the council, Terry, specifically what paperwork was missing? Are you able to say that?
Marcella, you may be able to better answer that than I can.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the council. This project is being funded with the Community Development Block Grant Program, which is a federal funding program. And basically, the paperwork that is missing is a Section 3 program outreach, which clearly is to benefit and outreach to low-income, either employees or any business that employs this employee
Category.
or individuals within this income group. And unfortunately, Pyramid did not do any outreach to try to comply with that requirement. And we don't want to have any issues, particularly as this is the funding source. Therefore, we are recommending that we reject the bid for non-responsiveness because it is required. And it was discussed during the pre-bid meeting, so the contractors that were there were well aware of this requirement. It's a requirement that we always make sure that is included whenever we do this type of bidding project with CDBG.
Well,
Jackson? Oh,
go ahead,
sorry.
Yeah, Marcelo, Terry, either one. Two questions I had regarding this issue was, one, were the companies that were involved with the bid, or obviously just one in this case, but there was other companies that participated in the pre-bid. Were they familiar with the budget for this project?
Well, it's obviously information that is made public, so they know the amounts.
So the scope of work obviously doesn't fall within the approved funding source. So what do we do to make up that? Or do we reduce the scope, or what are we doing?
Actually, I believe you guys, go ahead.
It's, well, it's a combination of CDBG and LTA funds, and we do
Okay,
have a
so
balance
it's
of
not
over.
all community
We have
block grant.
over
Okay.
5 million, I just checked today,
Gotcha,
in
okay.
LTA.
All right, thank you.
Any additional
It's about
questions?
equally divided. It's about equally divided.
Yes.
Any additional questions, comments?
No.
If not, I'm looking for approval, a motion to approve item number 9 out of the consent
Thank you, Terry.
agenda. I have a motion by Walker and a second by Jackson. Please ballot.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did it accept it?
Thank you. Item passes 5-0. Next item on the agenda is a site plan review for the El Centro Regional Medical Center Hospital Building at 1415 Ross Avenue. Presentation by our Director of Community Services.
Mr.
No,
Mayor,
Community,
No, our planning director.
it says here,
Director of Community Development.
Development, I'm sorry.
Development.
Development.
Mr. Mayor.
Oh, I see the development, okay, sorry.
I need to announce a conflict because I own property within 500 feet of the project, so I'm going to excuse myself.
Thank you, Ms. Baker.
12.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the council. The project before you is a site plan review application submitted by El Centro Regional Medical Center. And as you may be aware, there are proposed plans to build a 3-story building, and which would consist of over 67,000 square feet. And it will comprise of different uses. The first floor would be mostly emergency department, second floor pediatric and medical surgical rooms, and the third floor would be maternal and child development. So in total, there will be 60 new hospital beds. And as you may recall, this is going to basically meet the requirements of the state for the seismic buildings that must be in place by a certain time. The project site is, of course, at the hospital, 1415 Ross Avenue. And the project actually will be located southeast portion of the site, which would be just adjacent to the emergency room. Again, the surrounding areas, to the north, you have the hospital buildings. To the east and to the south, single-family residential houses. And to the west, also the part of the El Centro Regional Medical Center. This is a very tentative improvement schedule that is being proposed. As you may recall, the site plan review for the medical office was recently approved by the City Council. So the schedule is to start the RFP process during the 4th quarter of this year. Now, the schedule for the ancillary services building, which was approved back in 2014, I believe, and also the hospital expansion, that's what you have before you, basically will start the RFP process during the fourth quarter of 2016. So by the first quarter of 2017, it is anticipated that the medical office building on Ross Avenue will be completed. And by the first quarter of 2019, the hospital expansion will be completed. Once those projects are completed, the next phase of the development for the hospital will be to demolish the old part of the hospital to make room for the north parking lot expansion. And again, this is just a site plan, and it's included in your packet. This is a building elevation off of Pepper Drive entrance. And as it relates to parking, basically at the end of the project, when both buildings are completed, and the parking lot to the north is also completed, the total number of parking space will be 461, which is more than what's required for the entire hospital. Now, as you may know, with the previous site plan review that came before the council a couple of months ago, there were some requirements regarding the parking. So the ECRMC has submitted a master plan for the parking. So one of the conditions is that the project shall comply with the master parking site plan, which is also attached to as part of the resolution. And of course, the hospital building plans will be under review by the Office of Statewide Health Planning and Department, not by the city.
Norma, one question, I'm sorry. Could you go back 2 slides?
Right there.
Yeah, right there. Just a question that, as I see the expansion being a 3-story building, the existing hospital being a 2-story building that currently houses the helipad, what does that do for, are we maintaining the helipad, or do we have to remove it? Do we have to construct it on the 3rd story of the new building? Does it have to be at the highest point?
The project as submitted did not include the
I
helipad, but I
think
know
somebody-
there's members of the.
Can you come to the podium, please, and identify yourself for the record, please?
My name is Tai Din, the principal and the project manager for the hospital expansion. Currently, the helipad will be in place, and also part of our hospital expansion, we have retained a heliport consultant to reroute the flight path for all the helicopters coming in from the, I believe, on the southwest. And that is in the process of submitting to the FAA for approval.
So we can actually still maintain a helipad 1 story below another building that's
Essentially,
adjacent?
yeah, essentially the elevation of the helipad is about roughly 10 feet lower than the highest point of the new building. We're gonna have all the wind sockets and then also warning lights in our building, but all the flight paths will be coming from the other side, which is what it should have been since.
Okay.
So we get a lot of, well, not a lot, we get complaints from time to time with regard to the direction and the noise of the helicopter approach right now.
Mm-hmm.
So are you suggesting that with this expansion that the direction of those flights will change?
The direction of the flight, I believe, I don't understand how they do right now, but I believe they usually come from southeast. But the new direction will be coming from southwest, which is Imperial and Pepper coming in and take off from that side.
Okay. And this may be getting into a little bit too much detail, but with regard to the hospital parking, a lot of the parking that's being taken out is covered parking at this time. Is the thought that the replacement parking that will be constructed, will that be covered parking?
You're talking about a future 2020 master plan?
Yeah.
We have not gone that far as of current right now.
Thank you.
Norma, I don't know if Norma or the designer, but having a 3-story facility here along Pepper Drive, with 67,000 square feet is going to encourage a lot of traffic exiting perhaps off of Pepper Drive. Is that going to create any traffic issues, Terry, or anybody? Do we look at circulation, and should we be concerned over people wanting to make a left turn on Pepper onto Imperial?
That wasn't analyzed with this project. Currently, the existing driveways will remain the same. So it's something that we can look at, but that wasn't analyzed at this time.
So I just see people wanting to park here as opposed to in the north parking lot, where at the end of the day, there will be sufficient parking. But I don't know, I just kind of see a lot of people leaving off of Pepper, and if they're turning right, that's an easy turn, but if they're wanting to turn left, we may see those intersections that is,
Imperial Avenue
becomes
is already
impossible to
congested,
turn
yeah.
left on,
As the signalization go up.
yeah.
Can I add to that?
Please.
So the proposed program right now is basically just extend the ED out to the front area with an overhang for the driveway. In fact, there will be less parking in this area after the building is built. And then the main entrance for the inpatient services still remains on Imperial. All the patient beds will be on the second floor, so technically, all the patients admitting will be coming from the main hospital unless you are going to the emergency department, which is no different from what the current situation right now, except the parking spaces will be less.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay, thanks.
If there are any other questions, this concludes my report, and we're recommending approval of the resolution for this site plan review.
Thank you, Norma. Did you hear from any residents around the neighborhood that had any
Actually,
opposition?
on this project, we didn't get one comment from the residents.
I'm gonna wait till it's built.
Thank you. So this is a public hearing, so let me go ahead and open the public hearing. Any member of the public that wishes to provide council additional testimony on this matter? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. Reserve the right to call people if there's questions. Any additional questions from the council?
Not a question, but a comment, Mr. Mayor, and that is regarding the traffic. And I should hope that, I noticed that that was not something that was a condition, because we didn't do a traffic study. But I would hope we would begin to look at that a little more closely, and certainly the individual that's going to be doing the design will take all of that into consideration.
So that's just an observation, Ms.
Yes,
Ms.
that's
Sanders?
an
Okay.
observation. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Mayor.
Any additional questions, comments from the council? Seeing none, I'm looking for a motion to approve Resolution
119.
15-119, resolution of the City Council of the Centro approving site plan for the construction of hospital building addition for El Centro Regional Medical Center. I have a motion by Cardenas and a second by Jackson. Please ballot. Item passes 5-0. Thank you so much.
We need to retrieve our city attorney.
Yes, can somebody, Norma, can you get Ms. Becker back in the? Okay, let's go on to item number 13, community sponsorship request. Discussion and necessary action regarding the sponsorship of Mothers and Men Against Gangs Coalition Anti-Gang Awareness, Family Health, and Outreach Fair event. I don't see, is Mrs. Garcia? Oh, there she is. No, she's not here.
She's not here?
Mr. Duarte will address it since the applicant's not here.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. She was going to try and make it. They're at the Brawley Council presenting the same topic. What I'll bring forward is a presentation I believe at the last council meeting, they had already made the presentation regarding sponsorship for this event. It's Mothers and Men Against Gangs Coalition. They're going to have an outreach 7.3K mile walk, and they've requested and submitted a sponsorship application. And they are looking to get sponsorship for this community event.
Thank you, Ms. Sad. And I noticed that staff's recommendation is for the low end of the sponsorship at $100. And there's also
That is
a
correct.
$430, $550, and $730 sponsorship levels.
Correct.
Thank you. So, comments from the council?
You know, Mr. Mayor, and I believe this was maybe an initiative brought up by Councilmember Walker about just standardizing the way we give out sponsorships. I know that, you know, I believe we discuss a variety of things, but can you kind of walk me through a little bit? When somebody requests a sponsorship, do they normally go to the city manager's office, make the request, come to council, or is there a threshold in the amount of money before it actually comes to council, or do you have any discretion in that process? Can you kind of walk me through that process?
We do have a policy statement that was approved by the city council. It was approved back in 2009. And so there's an application process. They have to fill out the application process. It does get submitted to the city manager's office. And then we bring it before the council for approval. And there was a budget established just this past year in which, you know, at the leisure of the council decides what the sponsorship will be.
Okay. And then just in terms of, is there any criteria that they have to meet, whether it's, you know, if they're established nonprofit, a 501c3, is there anything related to that as far as a checklist that they have to meet?
There
prior
is a
to?
checklist. Let me see if I brought
I
it with me.
apologize.
No, that's
kinda-
fine. See if I can find it with me. Bear with me here. Yes, there's certain documents that they do have to provide once council does either approve or deny the request. They do have to provide proof of 501c. They have to provide proof of insurance for the event. They provide us with their mission statement, you know, different items such as statement, authorizing agency, and a financial affidavit. So there's certain requirements that they do have to meet in order for us to release payment.
Okay. Thank you.
The important aspect of that is any nonprofit organization can make that application. In your policy, it specifically indicates that commercial and for-profit organizations are prohibited, but even in those circumstances, the council can override that if they see the benefit to the community.
I mean, for example, somewhere we have validated that it is a 501c3. It's in good standing. They filed all of their annual paperwork and all of that.
I think are we waiting for any more
On
documents?
this particular request, the only item that we are pending is insurance. And they are aware of it, and they've been notified that if approved by council, prior to us issuing a check, they do need to provide the insurance. So that's the only, and it is in the packet.
Mr. Jackson?
Yeah. You know, I think it's always hard because we always try to be very conservative with public funds, and I just wonder if it's unfortunate that there's not another category, you know, someplace in between the 100 and, you know, the 430 or something. Being that the unfortunate part of this coalition is that you know, her son or their son was lost his life in our city. I'm wondering if we should not try to make a bigger statement and try to become more of a leader in this issue with gang violence and working with the community. I know that they've done good work in other communities. They haven't really done a whole lot in El Centro, and I think there's, you know, last meeting she kind of spoke to us about maybe having some maybe some resentment to our city, obviously. Her son was murdered in our city. But also the fact that it's been hard for her to come to us as a city and ask for help and participation. So I'm just wondering if even if we don't meet the next level, if maybe we should try to look at a little larger contribution and try to maybe get involved with a little bit more to try to set a statement.
Well, how about in lieu of a monetary contribution, we look to see if we could do something with the police department? Maybe the police department could do a demonstration with the dogs. I mean, that's still a relatively new and pretty dang exciting thing that we have that sets our agency apart. Maybe there's something that we could do, maybe city employees, maybe members of the city council would volunteer to be at the event or participate in the event. I don't think that, I think that giving of our time sends a much stronger message than simply adding maybe a couple of $100s. I'm also a little worried that we're not even halfway through the fiscal year yet, and we're down to a balance of $1,700.
Yeah.
So I would rather see us put our actions behind this as opposed to additional monies. I would support the $100 and then encourage others to look for ways that we could maybe do
Order
something
individually.
else.
They are having I believe it's 2 or 3 days of events where they're holding a vigil. They have requested that we provide a proclamation, which we have already worked on. And then they also sent me a form to see if maybe the city's interested in putting together like a running team, a team of, maybe city employees, maybe even council members to run at the event.
Running team?
Something, the five, yeah.
Alex, calm down. Calm down. It's okay.
Okay. Oh, what about walking?
Or walking.
See, it's a run.
It's a run or walk.
And for the council is that our police department is working with them on dealing with the run itself, and.
Okay.
And they are having an outreach fair.
No,
I'm seeing a no back here.
Chief, does the race go through our city? I've lost track of this project.
Yes, it will be here in the city.
There was.
As IVC track and field.
Is
But
it,
what they have though is there.
the vigil will be here in
Vigil will
El
be here.
Centro.
Okay, I want to make sure what our current role is, Chief.
Well,
Maybe the chief could interject something.
I don't want to presuppose.
So the day after the last meeting when Ms. Garza spoke, I had already had an appointment to meet with Mr. Garza. I don't know anything about the run, but the anniversary of their son's death is January 6th. So they want to hold what they're calling a peace walk from the site that the homicide
Court steps or
occurred, which is like 7th and Commercial. And they're gonna go through the city process to get an encroachment permit to walk from 7th and Commercial south on 7th to Main Street and then to the Superior Courthouse. So we're prepared to try to help with traffic control, but that's a peace walk.
That's the one I was.
Yeah, I don't know where the run's being held.
It's the peace walk, we're working on that encroachment, and the chief's working so they can have their
that's good.
their
So we're
walk.
providing some in-kind as well.
Yes.
So the in-kind, I'm sorry, Mrs. Walker has announced, with the chief's presentation, it's in-kind as well as a $100 sponsorship.
Yeah,
well,
that's,
I agree with Ms. Walker. I think time and energy and volunteers is important, but I also agree with Councilmember Jackson that I just think $100 sends a pretty soft message. I think that I'm open to the idea of maybe increasing this, if not to the 430, somewhere in between, because I just think that, $100 sponsorship for a 501c3 that wants to get involved in El Centro, wants to make a difference, to me, it just sends a, kind of a weak or soft message. So I'm open to the idea of increasing the contribution.
well, can we get an estimate as to what we think the in-kind contribution is of this, the value of the in-kind contribution to have officers involved in that walk?
We're not prepared, we don't have that information this time, because they're still putting their application through, so, but it's gonna be, there's gonna be several officers
when is
usually
this, the
involved,
6th?
covering the traffic, it's about approximately 2-hour period.
I would give or take at least a 2-hour period.
Right.
For just the vigil.
And that's our role here in the city.
Is is there two separate events? Is it the vigil and then the
The
peace walk?
vigil's on Wednesday,
Or is
and
it-
then, and yes, it's two separate events.
So is there, Chief, are we supplying personnel for the vigil and the peace walk, or just the peace walk?
Again, the vigil, I'm not sure where that came in. We spoke about a peace walk where they're gonna walk from Seventh Commercial to the courthouse, and then they're gonna have a speaker at the courthouse. Maybe that's the vigil. We'll be present at that. We'll do traffic control to get them from point A to point B.
So it's not
and
two separate two separate events.
The run and the peace walk are two separate issues.
And the run is in Raleigh, as I recall.
I don't
Are they
know.
doing
I
it
think
like
if you look at agenda packet,
It says
page
IBC.
160, we've got Wednesday the 6th is the Peace and Justice Walk from 7th Street to Main Street, immediately followed by the event at the courtroom restaurant next door. And then on Saturday is the IVC event.
Yeah.
It's
2
IBC,
days.
yes.
It's a 2-day event.
Thank you.
And to the point of in-kind, yeah, we'll be providing officers on an overtime basis to provide the traffic control. I believe, for their own reasons, they want to start the walk at 4:55 PM. So there'll be some logistical issues there, but, we will have officers, providing the traffic control.
Okay, any additional comments, questions?
Well, I think that, again, to demonstrate the city's commitment to this, that we could and should, to the extent possible, put a dollar of value to that in-kind donation and let the family know that in addition to the $100, we also are contributing an in-kind donation in the amount of fill in the blank. So I'm
So is
supporting the
that a motion?
$100 motion,
Okay, I
$100.
have a motion by Jackson. What's your motion, Mr. Jackson?
Oh,
Well, maybe I should withdraw because I think Cheryl was I jumped the gun.
that's,
Okay.
well, would you support the $100 plus put a value to the in-kind?
Well, I do kind of agree with the mayor. It just, $100 doesn't go very far in
Well,
this day and
but
age.
that's, then why is that included as a sponsorship option?
Yeah. But I'm wondering if that's more for private individuals and, when you're talking to a municipality, I mean, I have no idea. I was checking right now to see if there was any decision on what Brawley's doing, but I'm just wondering what a standard kind of sponsorship from a municipality would be in a situation like this, as opposed to a private citizen that maybe wants to contribute, where a private citizen might contribute $100 instead of not doing a 430 or 7, whatever. I'm just wondering if I kind of agree. It sends a soft message from us. I mean, yes, I realize there's going to be some costs incurred with overtime from our officers, but I don't know that's so much taken consideration. People don't look at that as, although they should, but they don't always look at that as what that contribution means in dollars and cents.
Then we should do a better job of communicating, because that is an expense to the taxpayer.
Absolutely, it definitely is an expense.
So are you withdrawing your motion, Mr. Jackson, or you're making a motion?
Would you want me to cancel the vote so you can?
Yes, please.
Liz, if I may, Mr. Mayor, did we communicate to her that we were considering a $100 donation?
Yes, she's aware of what I submitted.
Okay, and did she have any response to that?
No. No, I mean,
She was aware that we were recommending a $100 donation?
that we recommend the lowest amount, yes.
I move staff's recommendation of the $100 donation, and I am requesting that the city manager work with the police department to put a value on the in-kind donation.
And that'll be communicated in a letter. We'll get
Yes.
that information indicating the $100. But understand, we still need that insurance for us to issue
Right,
that check.
oh,
Correct.
contingent
Contingent
upon
upon-
yeah.
That's correct.
So, Ms. Anderson, does your motion mirrors Ms. Walker's motion? Because you moved on.
But yes, I thought I was
that
doing
okay,
a second,
Ms.
so
Oh,
yes.
absolutely.
Okay. I'm going to vote yes, because I don't want to vote no, but again, I wish it had been a little higher contribution, but
Mine was
I'm
mirroring
going to vote
hers,
yes.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah,
So-
I'm in agreement. I'll vote to support it,
Well,
and,
it's not getting off of that, I can't.
and maybe we can encourage, not only city staff, but ourselves to maybe get involved and maybe try to help with, some financial assistance also.
Absolutely. So motion passes 5-0. Thank you for that. Item number 14 is the amended and restated master agreement between the City of El Centro on behalf of the El Centro Regional Medical Center and the Regents of the University of California on behalf of the UC San Diego Health System and School of Medicine. We talked about this in our joint meeting with the hospital board. I don't know that there's any additional discussion. So I'm looking for a motion to approve the item as amended with the revisions that were submitted to us in our joint meeting with the hospital trustees. I have a motion by Walker and a second by Jackson. Any additional discussion? Seeing none, please ballot. Item passes 5-0. Thank you so much.
Done deal. Yes.
You may sleep now.
Item number 15 is resolution of the City Council awarding the bid and authorizing the execution of a contract for the Euclid Avenue Improvements Project. Mr. Hagan. No, I'm sorry. Yes, it is. Yes,
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
all right.
yeah.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and council members. This aerial shows the scope of the project. Basically, it's from La Berkshire to Imperial on Euclid, and it's reconstruction. That solid red line there to the west of where Vaughn's is reconstruction there completely, and then filling in the sidewalk, curb gutter sections that are missing for the entire project area.
Can we just vote yes now?
Say again?
Can we just vote yes now?
Sure.
That'll speed the kind of construction up.
Yeah.
It's made up of CMAQ funds and LTA funds, 286,000 CMAQ, and then the remainder LTA for a total of 662. Council approved the plans and specs on September 1st. Bid opening was October 15th. There were 3 bidders, Granite, Hazard, and Pyramid. Pyramid was the low bidder. The bids range from 732,000 to 602, which is the low bid. Construction would start in January and end in June. And we're recommending a 10% contingency for a total of $662,267.82. Any questions?
If I may, I have a quick question or whenever.
Yeah, well, aren't these projects typically ones that API would bid on, or no?
They would typically bid on a, not a
Repave?
reconstruction, but a
Okay.
heater.
Overlay or
Overlay
some-
type
okay.
with ARAM.
So these are the same 3 that we typically. Any issues with the construction going on during the holiday season, or we don't think that businesses in that area are going to be concerned?
No.
Starts in January and runs to June.
It's
Okay.
after the holidays.
Is there going to be a necessity to block off the entire street at any point in time, Terry, or is it going to be, traffic will continue to flow in one direction?
It's wide enough. They should do
Half and half?
half a lane or half a width of the highway at the first and then the other half.
Oh, I see it
You have to, 'cause
worded
you
on the
got-
first.
There may be some,
residential.
Council
Yeah,
Mayor,
today.
there may be some disruption. I mean, example, when we did Lotus, there may be 4 hours where they have to go in from some driveways. And they'll tell the folks during these period of times, we're gonna have to block,
Right.
but it's driveway by driveway. Very similar to when we did Barbara Worth. We told them, during these hours, we're gonna be right in front of your house. So please prepare to not to leave while we pave. And by the way, we've never had a problem. The folks are just so thrilled to get this done. But it's, they keep it open, but there'll be moments where they won't be able to pull out of the driveway.
That's right.
Well, this is so long overdue. This is the most frequent
Yeah.
question
That's
I
the
get
question.
asked.
Yeah.
Is when are you going to pave Euclid Avenue?
My email box is going to be empty now.
So, any additional, I have a motion by Jackson, second by Walker. Any additional questions? Is
You know,
this-
I-
is this
there was-
a,
If I may, Mr. Mayor, there was some construction earlier there, and I saw some heavy equipment around there. What, was that a separate project?
That was the cleaning up, I believe, an AT&T vault.
Oh,
It's unrelated.
okay. All right.
There's underground vaults there that they've been dealing with.
this is not a public hearing, correct?
No, this is an
No.
award.
Okay. So I have a motion by Jackson, second by Walker. Please ballot. Item passes 5-0. Thank you. Item number 16, discussion and necessary action regarding the award of the Buena Vista Avenue improvements to Pyramid Construction and Aggregates. Mr. Hagan.
You're really getting through this. I'm so happy, I'm so happy. Happy days are here again. The skies are gray or blue again.
Okay, this is from Buena Vista from 6th to 8th Street, and it's a complete reconstruction as well, and curbs, curb, gutter, sidewalks, and streetlights. And it's made up of CMAQ funds and LTA funds, $362,000, and for a total of $613 with the LTA funds added in. The plans were approved to go out to bid September 1st. Bid opening was October 15th. 3 companies bid again, Granite, Hazard, and Pyramid. Pyramid was the low bidder again. Bids ranged from a low bid of $557,000 to $656,000 high bid. Construction would start January 4th and end in June. We recommend a 10% contingency for a total of $613,693.22. Any questions?
We don't have a concern with Pyramid's capacity to run both projects concurrently.
Any additional questions? I have a motion by Sanders for approval, a second by Jackson. Please ballot. Item passes 5-0. Thank you much. Thank you, Terry. Next item on the agenda is the adoption of the 2050 strategic plan. We have a presentation by Ms.
So
Villacaña.
move.
Good evening again, Honorable Mayor and members of the council. I'll make this really brief. As you may recall, we were before you about a month ago with a draft Vision 2050 plan. What we have before you is we are recommending adoption of the final plan, which a copy you have before you. There were a couple of changes that were made to the draft plan, and I just want to go over that. Before I do that, though, I just want to let you know that the Planning Commission did review the plan, and they recommended approval at their November 10th meeting. So going from comments received at the meeting, we added a work plan at the end of the document, and I believe this is going to help us stay on track and maybe try and work on some of the goals and strategies that some of them are very long range, some of them could be done right away, and some of them are ongoing, as you can see. The other changes, if you recall, I mentioned that the architect was working on 2 additional drawings, renderings, and the first one was a multi-purpose pathway along the Brewery Avenue. And we don't want to call it a green pathway. This is just indicates, basically it's going to be a walking pathway and maybe have some kind of uses like a dog park or an area where dogs can, and that's why you see the green area right there. Okay. The other rendering was the corner of Laboratory and Imperial Avenue. As you recall, the southwest corner was recently rezoned, and this is what we're envisioning, some kind of neighborhood commercial, either a grocery store, nothing heavy commercial, basically just some kind of residential where people within that residential area can walk to the market, can go to the store, and this is what we're...
Laboratory in Maine, right?
Laboratory in Maine. Oh, I'm sorry.
Said Imperial, and I'm like, when did
No,
those
I'm
in-
sorry. Laboratory in Maine. And this is what we are envisioning at that corner, which was recently rezoned. And basically, those were the changes that were made to the draft plan, and we are recommending adoption of the final plan that's before you.
Thank you, Norma. And again, this is an outstanding job, and adding the work plan, Norma, at the end, that gives us a tangible and visible way to look at how our timelines, and there's some things that could happen as early as next year.
Right.
And being able to track those, and 5 years from now and so on, I think it makes this document so much more better than it already was. So I'm very, very proud of the work that you've done, Norma, along with your staff and everybody else
Thank you.
involved with this. It's just outstanding. Thank you for kind of seeing my vision and what I wanted to do in creating such an outstanding document that I think will guide the city in our vision and our development for years to come. So thank you. Thank you
You're
very
welcome.
much for that. Any additional comments from the council?
I just want to say that we had,
Oh,
with our timeline and not having the ability to find an outside source to put this together, I don't know that we could have found somebody that would have done a better job. So just great job on putting this together, you and your staff.
Thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, I'm just hopeful that, I think there was some discussion about it, that we would maybe do some follow-up, or even with our community, and just, show them the final product. And again, I don't know what that would look like as far as some sort of town hall or something that our community can be involved in the final product. I think it's something worth showing off.
Well, I think one of the things we can keep in mind is that there's going to be a number of community outreach events starting in January in connection with UCSD's efforts at the hospital. And perhaps we showcase both what's happening at the
Yes,
hospital
and
and at the same time showcase what's happening as a result of the strategic plan.
Yeah, every opportunity we have, we have the renderings blown up, and definitely we're gonna start using those.
Oh, and at the Imagine Awards too. Be a great place to showcase.
And I think the idea of submitting our plan to either SCAG or the League of Cities, or those organizations that perhaps can recognize the work done by our staff in this.
The league is I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, the league is well prepared. I did inform them that we had a wonderful document that I think would be worthy of either the Helen Putman Award, or I just listed every award, and I've been invited to attend in February, so I will be taking it.
Thank you.
Would you see, and this is kind of a weird question, but do you see any value in us maybe sharing this with our county board of supervisors, and maybe sharing this vision with them and doing a presentation? And it's kind of open-ended question. I mean,
I think it would be ideal for ICTC, whoever's going to be there next time.
We've had requests from a county staff member, and they were interested in the process and what we did. So, and they do have a copy. We're going to put this online on our website, and any opportunity, we want to showcase this.
thank you.
I think we bring extra copies to the next quarterly League of
meeting.
Cities dinner.
Okay.
That's a good point.
I'm sorry, I missed it.
Oh, we bring extra copies to the
Oh,
next League
yes.
of California Cities dinner.
Yes, absolutely.
Which is scheduled for January.
Okay, thank you so much. Please ballot, I think I'm the only one left. So, thank you so much. Item passes 5-0. Thank you, Norma, good job. There's a couple of recommendations to the Planning Commission that I'd like to make to the council. 2 members that were currently there are not going to be returning for different reasons. And so, Marcella and Harold.
Okay.
And so I have 2 recommendations. I reviewed the applications. I know most of the people here. I'd like to recommend someone that probably most of you know, Mr. Inman, Rich Inman, the former county CEO that just returned to the valley. He's very much interested in participating in city function activities and helping the city. So I'd like to submit his name for appointment to the Planning Commission. The other name that I'd like to submit is someone that the council also approved for appointment to our not our Labor Commission, our
Personnel Appeals
our
Board.
Personnel Appeals Board, Kathy Rodriguez, who has a very impressive resume. She is a professor at IVC. I know her well. She's an outstanding person cares about the community. I think that she would do a terrific job on the Planning Commission as well. She will have to resign from the Personnel Appeals Board. I was told by the city clerk that she cannot serve on both, so her appointment would be subject to her resignation from the Personnel Appeals Board. So I'm submitting those two names for the
And
council.
why can't she serve on both concurrently?
It's in our,
There was an opinion by the prior city attorney.
It's in the ordinance?
Oh, it does mention in the ordinance that they can't serve on another city board.
When I was, because I was on the community services and then got appointed to the planning, I had to resign from the community services.
so I have a motion by Jackson, second by Sanders. Please ballot. I also wanted to make sure that we have a full representation on the hospital board of trustees, and, kind of, sorry that Ms. Sanders won't be able to serve in that capacity anymore in a couple of days, so I wanted to make sure that we have a full set of trustees representing the interests of the council. I had talked to Mr. Jackson before, and that I would serve on the hospital board when he makes the appointments. I think he seemed to be inclined to that. So for that reason, I'm nominating myself to serve on the hospital trustees, subject to ratification later by Mr. Jackson.
You're placing your, Mr. Jackson is placing your name in nomination.
Yeah, I
Okay.
moved for you.
Okay.
You don't have to,
Okay.
you don't have to move yourself.
Yeah, no, I wasn't planning to.
Okay.
So I have a motion by Jackson, second by Cardenas. Please ballot. Okay, what else do we have?
That was it.
We have an action, are we there yet? Let me see.
We got a closed session?
Coming out of closed session.
We have an item coming out of closed session. Let me read what our city attorney prepared for me. There is an item coming out of closed session that the council is going to add to the open session agenda. The item involves appointing members to the Personnel Appeals Board for the limited purpose of hearing the court-ordered remand in the disciplinary appeal of Andrew McFadden. This item is being added because the council has determined that there's a need for immediate action which cannot reasonably wait for the next regularly scheduled meeting. So I need a motion to add the item to our agenda, please. I have a motion by Jackson and second by Walker. To add, and,
Sanders?
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
item passes 5-0, so we've added it. The action that we are seeking is the appointments to the Personnel Appeals Board for the limited purpose of hearing the court order remand in the disciplinary appeal of Andrew McFadden are Luis Blancarte, Peter Martinez, Silvia Lemus, and Roberto Avila. I have a motion by Sanders and second by Jackson. Please ballot. Thank you. Item passes 5-0. There are a number of informational items on the agenda.
One thing, I would like to thank Ms. Piedra for the updates and the timely preparation, both for the Adult Center services, and if I could just confirm your attendance at the next AAA Advisory Committee meeting, be the third Thursday of the month. And then also really do appreciate the ongoing work at the skate park. Try to get things where we envision them to be. Appreciate it.
And just a follow-up question, Marcela or Chief Madueño. I haven't got any more calls regarding issues on the skate park. Are you seeing anything? Or has anybody got any more calls?
Actually, no, not lately.
Okay. Nothing on the successor agency to redevelopment, nothing on the successor housing agency. Public comments, any member of the public that wishes to provide comments to the council? Seeing none, I should see no members of the public. Close that. Council member reports, we'll start with Ms. Sanders.
Thank you. This will be my last reporting out for you. It's been a joy. The Oversight Board did meet and we had looked at the various properties, and I think that we're well along the way and moving forward as the direction from the state of California. Some of the properties, as you well know, we had to set aside that we could not be used because they were not deemed to be for public use. Others we have well in the confines of the public use. Secondly, the Aquatic Center is moving forward. There will be a meeting on tomorrow at 2 p.m. That'll be my last meeting as a representative on that particular body. It's well along the pipeline, and I envision that when it's complete, not only will I enjoy the lazy river, but I'm sure many of you will as well. The AAA, we met, and of course, the major things there are the types of programs and projects that can continue to do things that will benefit our senior population. Ms. Walker already identified the things that were being done by the Community Service Committee as it relates to how do we go about making sure that those seniors that are worried about whether or not they're eating dirt in their food and/or whether or not they have adequate programs as far as dancing and all of the other activities that they would like to participate in. Equally important are some of the legislative pieces that are coming down the pipe. Those particular presentation was made by Mrs. Margaret Sosa as well as Mr. Johnny Hernandez. And it seems that there are some particular interests for seniors. Having said that, and you heard all of the comments that have already come from the hospital board, so I have nothing else to report there. I want to thank all of you for the opportunity of service. It's been a good, I want to call it a good run. I will step back on Thursday into private life, and I hope all of you are as kind to each other as you've been to me.
Thank you, Cecilia.
Bless you for that.
And I know that all of us are going to be expressing our gratitude for what you've done for the city for such a long tenure, and you're to be commended, and we're going to commend you on the proper time on Thursday. But thank you for those comments as well. Mr. Jackson.
Yeah, thank you. Attended the IVEDC dinner in Hopeville last week. Well attended, and was out. It was hosted by Mary and Alan Bornt out at their house in Hopeville, which is, if you haven't had a chance to see their house, it's pretty amazing. Yeah. Obviously, looking forward to Thursday, as long as I don't screw anything up with you guys over the next 2 days.
Well, your name is on the invitation, Jason.
Yeah, it'd be really bad at this point. But I am, and I've talked to Councilmember Cardenas, and we've had some brief discussions with Council-elect Garcia also. And we are planning a pretty nice little celebration with tri-tip dinner and music and some adult beverages, and so it'll be pretty nice.
Well, who are the adults up here? I mean,
Well, there's got to be some staff that show up or something. I don't know.
I was thinking you're talking about those at the dais.
No.
Mr. Duran, can we do the same thing that we did when we had the large groups here and set aside some parking spaces for the council that day? Because we do expect quite a bit of people here.
Yes, in fact, why don't we just, if you plan, by the way, no one parks on that side. So if you just want to park on the shaded side, where.
Well, there'll be spaces open?
Yes, we leave, no one ever parks over there, because they don't know that it's there, really. So I would suggest park over there. If you run out of parking, it's really bad. This street will be closed.
Okay.
We're closing the street
Wow.
for the overflow. We're not sure. We had some plans that we were going to barbecue out here, but that changed a little bit. But we're still going to have it.
Is Drew going to do the barbecue?
No, Chris Machado and Ralph Figueroa. Yeah. So, and then December 4th, Friday, will be our tree lighting. I'm told my first official flick of the switch, we get to light up the tree.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun. And then obviously, I think a lot of us are going to be in the parade on Saturday. So looking forward to that too. So,
Awesome.
that's all
Thank
I
you.
got.
Ms. Walker?
Thursday, I will be in Los Angeles for the SCAG monthly meeting. We will be voting on the release of the RTP SCS for public comment for that period of time. Want to remind council members that we do have the Economic Summit coming up in January 7th. I will probably not be able to attend the events over the weekend since Steve is attending the school district annual conference in San Diego. But if you can have a parking space available for me on Thursday, because I will literally be driving from the airport to here for that. I did have an opportunity to meet the incoming speaker, or I guess they call him the speaker designate for the House. I attended a Salton Sea meeting week ago Friday, and it was great. Boots on the ground. Our Assembly Member Garcia staged a really nice meeting with a number of elected officials and appointed folks who have an interest in ensuring that the state of California makes good on its commitments with regard to the Salton Sea. So I think the incoming speaker is going to do an outstanding job in that regard.
Mr. Cardenas?
Yes, I put a call into Alicia Swain, who's the general manager of the Imperial Valley Mall, and I kind of quizzed her on how we did this Thanksgiving weekend as far as shopping and Black Friday. And so I'm actually proud to report that she said that the mall did very, very well in sales. This is the first year that they open on a Wednesday at 6 o'clock. Last year they opened on a Wednesday at 8 o'clock. This year they decided to do it at 6 o'clock.
Wednesday or Thursday?
Wednesday.
Oh,
Wednesday
my.
night. And so from 6 p.m. to 2 a.m., she just said it was a madhouse, just crazy with sales. And kind of her initial numbers are that they exceeded their sales plan from last year.
Wow.
Some department stores actually exceeded it by 20%. So the fact that they opened at 6 o'clock was a huge hit for our mall, and they did a very good job in terms of year-over-year sales. So she's pretty excited about that. And she just said it was crazier on Wednesday night that it won than Friday, it was Thursday night. You're right. It was Thursday night. They opened at 6, and it was crazier on Thursday night than it was on actually Friday. So we did very, very well in terms of sales there, and she said traffic was pleasant. It wasn't as crazy as she thought it was going to be, especially with Dogwood. But she's very, very happy to share those numbers. And then also attended our public safety task force meeting, and I'm not going to steal their thunder, but there are some very exciting things that are going to come out of that, and especially in the areas of technology. And I believe they're going to be doing some presentations before the council, and very exciting stuff that we're seeing from our public safety task force. So I'll kind of leave it at that, and we'll see some coming attractions from them.
Thank you, Mr. Cardenas. I think the only function that I attended, is kind of winding down, is the asthma forum that's put together by the hospital, and I've done this now for about 6 or 7 years. I always enjoy watching our high school students make their presentations and advocacy for health and asthma improvement. So I think that's the only thing that I attended. Look forward to our reorg on Thursday. Ms. Becker, do I need to adjourn the meeting to Thursday, or yes?
Are you going into closed session?
Yeah, we have to come back into closed session, so.
You need to make a motion to go back into closed session.
Okay. Any additional comments, anything? Okay, so we're gonna, motion by Ms. Sanders to move into closed session.
Second.
Second by Mr. Cardenas. All in favor?
Aye. See you Thursday.
Good night, Irene's.
8:02.
8:02.